Good afternoon and welcome back to another ironic introduction to another video. Today I will be doing my July review and August forecasting. As always, there's a link to the forum in the description below, as well as a timestamp if you want to skip to my first thoughts, impressions, and reward review for August. That said, let's talk about July. July has been an interesting month. We did have essentially the introduction of Cavalier Beta in the side event. It was reasonably well balanced as I think the expedition style events can be. The frustration there being, of course, the ambush mechanic and the tedious nature of having to do insanely large amounts of paths comparatively to other months where it's not as repetitive, but the reward structure is solid. I think the node mechanics were reasonable, and you know, the ambush itself, like Sasquatch isn't like the absolute worst of ambushes, just also not like the best. So overall, I'd say it was a pretty good month, especially with Boss Rush closing out the end of July on a 5-week month. It didn't really feel that bad on a 5-week month, especially with all the hype going into August. We've got so many crazy things going on. I'm not going to hold the maintenance and server issues against Kabam for July as a whole, even though that should be factored in because it definitely has a huge factor on the overall perception of how the month went. I would say July was pretty good. Definitely had a lot of could-be betters in the forms of rewards and the content and tedious nature of it, but overall I'd say it's a really, really good gateway into August, which is going to be very interesting. So that said, we'll dive straight into the forum here, so pledge yourself to Galactus. Summoner, fear not, for salvation is near. The great devourer is coming to guide us into the future. It is time to earn your place as a herald of Galactus. Prove yourself. Every day from August 5th until September 2nd, you will gain a Galactus's favor item from a special Heralds of Galactus calendar. Use that favor to gain entry to a special event quest that rotates daily. Rewards for these quests will alternate daily between crystal shards and catalysts and fragments, with a special quest on Tuesdays giving access to both shards and catalysts. Quests will also be based on classes. Use this opportunity to target the rewards that you need to strengthen your roster. You can save your favors and enter any quest you'd like multiple times, so you can choose the quest that is best suited for your needs and your roster. Herald difficulty. For those who have truly proved their might, a special Herald difficulty of this month's event quest will be open to those who have become level 55 or higher. Naturally, more danger calls for increased rewards, so make the most of this cosmic challenge. Galactus rewards his heralds. The rewards for each quest are listed below. Please remember that these are listed per day and you will only be able to do 28 quests. Rewards comment later. Solo objectives. Special solo objectives will be available as you fight alongside other heralds. Some objectives are locked off to those who've progressed in the story of the contest, with objectives unlocked for those who have completed Act 4, more for those who have become uncollected, and a special set that rewards Tier 5 class catalyst fragments for those that have achieved the rank of Cavalier. Battle across the contest and be rewarded. So timestamp here for those of you who care about my first impressions and thoughts. Nothing crazy here. 28-day event. You know, those suck. Like, I really don't know how else to say it. It doesn't look like we're going to have another month. Like, I don't think this is going to be as bad as Expeditions. Personally, I think tedious nature-wise, Expeditions is one of the worst, but this does mean you're going to have to do something 28 times. I think the only nice thing is that it is scaled in a way where you can save them up, do them all at once, do them over, you know, multiple groupings. Honestly, you're going to have to do them over multiple groupings unless you do them all on the last day. And it's just better to do them along the way. So yeah, it's not bad. It just kind of depends on what the quests themselves look like. I hate it when they do these class-specific ones, and I really, really, really hope that that means like that's that class advantage and not that that's class-locked, because class-locked sucks and is like unnecessarily restrictive. We'll have to see. I'm under the impression this is going to be class-locked, but yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. As far as Herald difficulty, nothing new here. And then we talk about rewards. Now, talking about rewards, I have this separated into Epic and Herald because not everybody is going to be doing Epic. I'm sorry, not everybody is going to be doing Herald, and a lot of you will be doing Epic as well. I think this is a good mix. I apologize that I'm not covering Master as well, but they've tiered the rewards off fairly poorly, in my opinion here, where like you mostly get your 5 and 6 star shards in Epic, and because you can only do 28 quests, like you essentially just need to run the highest difficulty you can to get the best rewards you can, essentially speaking, because there's a lot of gaps here, like the fact that you really only get tier 1 alpha if you're running master difficulty. You don't get that in epic or herald, so you'll notice that that's not in my rewards spreadsheet, as well as overall some negative values here you'll see on a month-to-month change. So there's some good stuff. I want to talk about that first, but before I do that, I need to talk about the layout of this spreadsheet because it's a little confusing, but it's just like the best way I could spread it out. So because you have the opportunity to choose, this is another semi-choose your rewards month, but it's more minuscule in the fact that you can do it 28 times. You don't necessarily have to do a half and half split. You could do 3/4 one way, or 33% one way, to a degree. So I've set this up in the sense of, what if you did a complete split, right? You only do the day that gives you half of each, because that's going to be my best metric for comparing this to previous months. I also have, what would happen if you did as much of one as possible? And because of the way it's set up, you actually can't do all 28 on one. Like, for example, if you want to max out on shards, this is a Wednesday, Friday, Sunday thing, which means you could cap out on Sunday, but then you still have Monday and Tuesday, 2 more days at the end of the month that you won't be able to do. And so the best way to max out on shards from there is to save for Tuesday, which is the split day, and then you'll get the +2 split, and then I calculate that here. That's why this isn't exactly a exact double of the rewards. It's a little more, minute than that. And then here for the rank up materials, I did the same concept split, but this one is 27 + 1 split, because Monday you could finish all 27 on the Monday before the month ends, and then you would only have the 1 extra favor from the following Tuesday, and then the month is over. Now this is all assuming that they don't extend the event past the 1 week, which I believe they don't, because they say until September 2nd. So that is my impression, but I've been wrong before. But hopefully they do extend it that 1 week to give everybody the proper choice here, so we don't awkwardly all have to do split for sure. But that's just the way it is right now. And again, kind of lining up with the calendar, this might line up differently. This is just based on, the actual form, so I apologize if it ends up being slightly different. You get the rough metric. And then Herald's set up the same way. As a result, I have these extra little notes down here. As far as the rewards, I want to first compare Epic, because I think it's really easy to look at it and go, wow, 2,000 6-star shards. And the truth is, like, it's not actually that great. Like, Epic stands at its same metric, 6-star, 1,000 6-star shards. You do get a full 5-star crystal, but I'll talk about why that's not good later. And 28 5-star signature stones. You get a chunk of ISO, a reasonable amount, 56, a really good amount of gold, 840,000, and then, minute amounts of tier 4 basic, tier 2 alpha, and tier 5 basic. If you're opting to max out on shards, you can get all the way up to roughly double that quantity, but you still get 20% of a tier 5 basic, which is a little bit more than we normally get. We normally see 10%, or that's the metric I compare to. It has been slowly inflating. 1 tier 2 alpha and 3 tier 4 basics, 1 tier 4 class catalyst. So this is actually where I draw my issues. So for Epic, comparatively to what we've seen before, this is actually less in some ways, and just completely non-existent in others. So I would like to compare it to like March and April, where we saw 1,000 6-star shards. That metric's the same. We saw 1.5, actually a little more than 1.5 5-star shards. So we're actually losing out there if you're an Epic player. We are missing out on all of the 4-star shards, which translates to ISO. And you might say, oh, but Jay, they gave us 56 ISO here. This is roughly 6 or 7 4-stars, and if those end up being dupes, which they not necessarily always are, but necessarily they eventually become dupes, so it's the equivalent of about 6 or 7 dupes. That's 24 tier 5 ISOs, class specific too, so you actually have a beneficial value there of them being boosted by class if you use them in the right locations. So you're actually missing out on more ISO, almost double the ISO than they're giving you here generic. You could make an argument that generic ISO is comparatively better depending on what you're using it for. But I would make the argument that class specific plus 4-star signature stones plus 4 stars, because some people are running epic but still might be fishing for 4 stars. Overall, this is actually a loss, a net loss. The gold increase is amazing, so I actually really approve that. I don't know if that's necessarily worth the exchange here on ISO and 4 stars, but that's going to be based on your own perspective and your own stance in the game. There is notably way less tier 4 class catalyst here, seeing 6 and 2 both in March and April. So yeah, I mean, even at like 2, it's still half the amount, which you can get to if you double up, but that's not really an accurate measurement here. So comparing it to the 1, and it's only 3 tier 4 basic, which really isn't a lot of tier 4 basic, when in March and April we had 7 and almost 6. And this goes to go with the fact that there's also no tier 1 alpha. Just like the tier 1 alpha shortage is incredibly real. I know I'm not the only one who sees it. And it's really frustrating. It's like a different way of essentially gating rank ups, and I'm not a fan. Right? They tax you on other parts of the game by giving you more here. So I'm not trying to be a downer about it, but I'm going to go ahead and say that these rewards are an overall downgrade. Yes, there's going to be people who think the gold is worth the exchange of tier 1 alpha, tier 4 basic, and tier 4 class catalyst. There's going to be some people who say that 1 with the option of 2 tier 2 alpha is totally reasonable, given the fact that previously they were giving us 2 flat. You know, face it the way you want, because there's the argument of, well, epic is probably easier now because of the herald difficulty, which is true. Epic, I do believe, is something they're going to tone down the difficulty of to a more reasonable or consistent level as a result of herald difficulty, but I'll hold that thought process and logic until I see it actually happen, because we only have this second month to go off of. But even still, I don't like downshifting rewards. I feel like the inflation occurred, everybody got comfortable with it, and now they're shifting it down and they're reallocating it to herald, and even with herald, it's not good. Like, the inflation effect here is working counterintuitively. It's like a head fake, and I'm not a fan. That's why I do these spreadsheets, because it sucks, and I want to point it out, and I hope other people see it and they comment about it, because it needs to be seen. So yeah, overall epic, overall downshift, some niceties that are nice, you know, selectivity, overall increase in tier 5 basic, overall increase in gold, but you have a net loss on the lower side in regards to 4-star crystals, tier 4 basic, tier 4 class catalyst, and tier 1 alpha. So I'll talk about herald. I've talked about epic too long. So for herald, for 6-star shards, we are seeing an overall increase. This is 5,000 6-star shards available to you on the split, almost a full 6-star crystal if you allocate differently. This might actually be a full 6-star crystal depending on how they do the calendar, but yeah, we'll wait and see how that works out soon. But as far as 6-star shards go, this is actually really solid. 5 stars, we see 1.5 here. Keep in mind, though, that this is not additive, so it's not like, oh, you see 1 for epic and 1.5 for 5-star. So this is 1.5 for a higher difficulty, which, again, I want to point out that in March and April, on epic difficulty, granted it was technically inflated or upscaled epic difficulty, we saw more shards. Like, whatever. We'll move into 6 stones, because there's an argument here for decreased quantity of stars for increased quantity of signature stones. We do see a value of 56 signature stones split in some way, shape, or form. Essentially, the way you split up, whether or not you centralize on shards or whether or not you centralize based on rank up materials, only really affects the quantity of signature stones you get in which kind, like whether or not they're generic or whether or not they're crystals, but it won't actually affect the overall number of signature stones that you receive. I'm just confirming a quick number for me real quick. Yeah, okay, that's what I wanted to see. So the tier 2 alpha is actually the same, so I wonder if that's a typo. So as far as ISO goes, it is a solidly larger increase in ISO, which is nice, and almost 1.5 million gold, which is really nice. And then here's my issue. I think this is my biggest issue, because this like has to be some kind of typo. There is 1 tier 2 alpha and half a tier 5 basic. Now the half a tier 5 basic is actually really nice. It's a solid amount, and I'm okay with that increase. But like, how does herald difficulty give 1 tier 2 alpha and epic difficulty gives the same amount? I just feel like there's a lack of upscaling here that honestly has to be a typo. Like I refuse to believe that this isn't a typo, or maybe we're gonna see it in the form of the objectives. But that's one of the things I hate about the special objectives, because they can hide rewards and value in there, and then I can't like accurately tell whether or not the next month is something to look forward to. And I'm not a fan of that. I feel like it's unnecessary and it deviates a little bit, but it is what it is. So yeah, that's Herald. Same issues here as an Epic, just slightly different. The upscaling is nice. I think the 6-star shards here is nice. The tier 5 basic is nice. And the signature stones, awesome. Absolutely love it. So I'll try not to harp too much on the rest of the value resources, like the fact that Herald doesn't even get any tier 4 basic, doesn't see any tier 4 class catalysts. Yeah, because you still need those, actually, to rank up high-end 5 stars. So it doesn't really make sense to me that they're not here at all. Maybe the concept is you need less overall because some kind of math or logic. It just overall seems like an oversight to me, and I'm not a fan. It's weird that despite this overall increase in rewards on the high end, I'm actually less excited for this month than I have been previously. Not in the sense of like the boss rushes and all the crazy events and stuff. I'm really, really hyped. I think the game's going to be amazing. I think August is going to be one of the best months for the contest, but specifically for side event rewards, I think this is a head fake. I think they're taking advantage of the fact that we're all distracted by all the crazy hullabaloo, and we're getting shafted. I really, really hope this doesn't trend forward. I'd like to see some kind of shift in the rewards here, or maybe accessibility for Tier 4 Basics, Tier 4 Class, and Tier 1 Alpha in the game elsewhere, especially for people who are pushing Herald, because it's frustrating to have to find it elsewhere and be very limited on it as a result of pushing higher content and getting nothing in return as far as those lower resources. But yeah, again, I'm being a little cyclic. I apologize. Just want to make sure everybody sees that point. That said, let me know what you think about August. Maybe everything I've brought up, everything I've talked about multiple times here doesn't mean anything to you, and you think it's totally worth this trade-off of higher end resources. Maybe you think I'm right and we need to see at least some small change of smaller resources here in existence, and I don't see anything wrong with that. Or maybe it's in the special objective and I'm being too harsh on a side event before it even launches. Of course, I always hold that disclaimer. That said, as always, talk to y'all later. Peace.